And we are back, kind of. I think we're back. I'm pretty sure, unless this has technical difficulties, but it wouldn't be a stream with us if it didn't have any technical difficulties, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Right. There always has to be technical difficulty. We always have to
Yeah.
screw things up. And
Mm,
I mean, this is the whole thing, right? That like YouTube, it used to be the average Joe doing their thing. Like it was
hmm
essentially America's funniest home videos, but like an entire website of America's funniest home videos, right? Like
hmm
that's what YouTube used to be. And then all of a sudden America's funniest home videos became all of TV, and everybody's expected like studio level perfection when when it's just people, you know? So that's where we are.
People are going to ask, and people want to know, where have you been? Hmm.
Man,
Yeah,
I
where have you
mean,
been?
where have I been?
Hmm
I've been around.
You've been around? Is that because one guy asked me, dude, where's Preston? Did he die? And I said, yes,
Yes,
he
yes, I did
is.
die. Yeah, no, I
This
did.
podcast is like his
I
AI.
did.
I'm using AI. Hey, that's actually a question I wanted to ask you real quick.
Mm.
With your permission, if something happens to you, God forbid, you're on one of your CIA missions, can I use AI to replicate you and still do the podcast?
You do what you need to do, dude.
Ah!
You did what you need to do.
Fair.
Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to discuss with you briefly before we get into
Mm.
comments and all that stuff and other topics is the winds of Winter. Someone asked me a really phenomenal question that I kind of
You
want to
wanted to
throw to.
talk about the Harrower chapter and the Winds of Winter. Is this it? Is that what
I
you're
haven't.
saying?
I haven't actually had a chance to check out the Harrow chapter.
God,
I know. I'm
you're the
sorry. It's
worst.
just
You're the
for
worst.
for whatever
You're the
reason,
worst.
YouTube does not alert me when you upload videos. I actually have to rely on my bot in my Discord server
Mm.
to let me know when. I don't know why, but the one question I got a while ago, and I want to throw to you is, if you had the opportunity, if you had the chance to take one theory, any theory, your own, someone
Yeah.
else's, and make sure it goes into Winds of Winter's official canon, which one would
Yeah.
it be?
I mean, definitely the Dornish master plan. Like head and shoulders, it would be the Dornish master plan.
Dornish, not Quentin is alive, because the implications to that are crazy.
No. I mean, Quentin is alive would be interesting, but I think the Dornish master plan, it makes the reason I'd want it in is that it makes A Feast for Crows a better book. Like A Feast for Crows would not just be like this big waste of time. That all of the things like Ares Oakheart and the Queenmaker plan and all of that like has function, and then it would also like bring function to the Brave Companions and things like that. It would make a richer story because it brings back so many elements, and I'm a sucker for that. But that's just kind of me. Like when you break, I am such a sucker for, and I'm not talking like random Easter eggs. I'm a sucker for like bringing back threads that I've forgotten about and bringing them in and being like, oh my God, you brought back something from season one and it's so perfect. You know, like I'm a sucker for that kind of shit.
Mm.
But
You mean like when they
uh
brought back the opening when Robert arrives in season one, and they brought that back in season eight? That was cool.
that was Easter egg. No, what I'm talking like a better example is okay. So in I'm going to bring up Angel and my dating myself with my unabashed love for Joss Whedon, even though he's like no longer like allowed to be loved. But like in Angel's 5 seasons, and in the first season, Joss Whedon decided to kind of troll us by he has 3 main characters. He had Angel, he had Cordelia, and he had Doyle. And Doyle is this guy who gets visions.
Mm.
And that's the plot of the show. He gets a vision, and then Angel has to save the person in the vision.
Is Doyle
And
the
so
guy with the
you're
glasses?
no. That's Wesley.
Gotcha.
Doyle is this Irish guy.
Mm.
He's played by, you'd know him more as the husband of Becky on Roseanne. That
Oh,
actor.
okay. Yeah, you're right.
Anyway, he's incredible actor, and he passed away. It's really sad. So he as a troll, like Joss Whedon decides to kill him in the 9th fucking episode of the show. And everyone, like, it was completely unexpected because it's like the show is 3 people.
Mhm.
Like, this is the premise, and he's the premise, he's the gimmick. They get visions from him, and that's it, you know? And so, right before he dies, he ends up kissing Cordelia, and Cordelia then gets the visions. And for the rest of the show, like, her visions like drive the plot. And so you kind of forget about Doyle. So 5 seasons go by. Like, Cordelia has died. There's all sorts of things. Like, we've moved on from this plot completely. And we get to the 5th season. It's the middle of the 5th season. It's the 100th episode. And all of a sudden, one of the characters is back claiming to be Doyle. And he's been getting visions, and he's sending Spike on missions to fulfill these visions. And like, the characters find out about this, and keep in mind, at this point, the actor has passed away. And so, like, the look on everybody's face when they're like, somebody's impersonating Doyle, they're like, the look of sickness on all of their face. And then they have this whole adventure, and they stop him, and Angel ends up, you know, Cordelia comes back as a ghost, and, you know, there was romance between Angel and Cordelia, and he ends up kissing her. And then in the last fucking episode of the show, you find out that Cordelia's visions passed to Angel, and he got a vision, and he's got to fucking like do this one last mission at the very end of the fucking show. And it was just like, oh my God, you fucking did it. You fucking wrapped it all fucking together. You brought back the beginning to the end. I fucking love that. I love efficient storytelling where the threads all come together. Like, I'm a sucker for that shit. And so, not to, you know, toot my own horn, like, what I like about the Dornish Master Plan and why it was crafted is that it uses all of these plot lines that everyone just kind of assumes are nothing.
Right.
And makes them useful. So yeah, no, hands down, I would make the Dornish Master Plan like the thing that continues on in the Winds of Winter.
I think there is one theory that I've always really liked, and it's not mine. I'll gladly admit it's not mine. It's something I thought of years
It's Bolt
ago.
On. It's Bolt On. You'd like Bolt On to be in the
What is Bolt On really? Is that Roose is a vampire?
Yeah, it's Roose is a vampire.
Roose is a fucking vampire. That's it. That's all it is.
That he's gonna try to like take over Ramsay's body.
Do vampires do that?
No, but I think they mean like no. I think it's like metaphorical vampire, that he's like leeching life or something. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Cool, I guess. It's just the one I would say that I really liked is that Marillion has always been Littlefinger's patsy, like his guy has always been there. And you know, when he hides Marillion's hands, when he shows him to the Lord's Declarant and all that, that was always fishy.
Yeah. The Marillion plotline is really weird. I would love for Marillion to like come back somehow and have an explanation for all the weird shit that happened with Marillion. Like why he agreed to confess, where he went, why Sweet Robin is hearing his singing. I would love an explanation.
Yeah, I mean that one is so small it doesn't affect much, but the Dornish Master Plan, that would be insane. It's basically Duran and Qyburn colluding with each other.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And the Brotherhood, not the Brotherhood.
The Brave Companions were over in Sellsword Company. Yeah, over in Sellsword Company. Yeah.
Damn, so many threads on that one. How does that come together in the end, like in the very final pages of Dream?
Yeah, I know. Somebody wants me to do an Angel summary video and analysis. Oh my God, it'd just be too much. It'd be too much. I admit also that with Angel, I connect the dots more than probably the writers do about like everything in the show, but it's fine. Like, you know, I really love that show, but I have very, very warm, fuzzy, nostalgic feelings for it.
Before we move on, I did want to let me see if I can work this thing here. work this thing here. Super chats. I want to get out of the way from the Watcher. Carmine finally giving us the stream that was promised. Now we just have to wait for Winds of Winter and the Witcher podcast. Please don't ever bring that the fuck up. Please don't.
So truth be told, I've been trying to get like Carmine to do a Witcher podcast forever, and he refuses. He's like so emotionally connected to The Witcher, and he hates The Witcher show that much that he like refuses. He refuses. Now did you watch all The Witcher?
I watched the first season, and
I watched the first season. Yeah,
fine. It was. That's one of those shows where you kind of have to do like a Mr. Plinkett Star Wars prequel style review of it, because there's so much wrong with it, and most of the characters I don't think are cast well. Like Anya Chalotra as Yennefer, that's not Yennefer. I'm sorry, but like Yennefer is not Anya Chalotra. She has like this girl next door kind of look to her. Let me show you here. I'm gonna get so much shit for this because I always do, and I hate it so much. But let me show you here who should be Yennefer real quick. Let me. I'm gonna get so much shit for this. This woman here should be Yennefer, Ava Green. No.
I mean, I'd never read the Witcher books or played the video game, but you're saying that Yennefer, the one they chose, is a little too dangerous and doesn't have like a warm girl next door feel to her?
No, a Yennefer is the type of girl where you don't fuck her, she fucks you. The Yennefer is the type of girl where you don't really break up with her without her breaking some bones in your body. She sets fire to your clothes while you're still wearing them. That's who Yennefer is.
That's the feeling I got from like show Yennefer.
Really? I did not get that. Really? You got that from Anya Chalotra?
Yeah, she seemed really really,
nice.
I mean,
she seemed very nice, but
Yennefer's no, she was nice. She was not that nice. No, she was definitely not nice. No, she seemed, she seemed like, dark and evil. It's been a long. Keep in mind, it's also been a long time since I saw the show. It's been years now. So.
I know. By the way, let me do one more dono before I get to this one part, because you and I are gonna be very depressed. From Modern Synthesis, happy first stream, Carmine. Thank you, my love. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I also want, by the way, not my first stream. I had one back in January.
It's like his fourth first stream.
He's actually right, because we did 2 streams for season 8, and then I did one again back in January. That was trash. And yeah. So what you're looking at here, Preston, is the cover for the new Witcher book. This fucking guy announced it almost 2 years ago, and we already have a cover.
Let me see. Oh yeah. Okay. There's the cover. Nice.
Wow. Yeah. Bask in it. The Witcher story is done. So what he's doing, he said he'd never do another one, but I'm assuming that his new stories probably weren't making enough money, so he went back and did it again, and now he's doing a prequel story. So
this is a big problem. I mean, this was the Robert Jordan problem, is that when something is your cash cow, you don't want to. I guess the proper metaphor is you don't want to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs, right? And so you keep it going, thinking that like, oh, I gotta keep my paycheck coming in. Now, one of the guy that did his Dark Materials, I think he did the right balance where he kind of did his trilogy, and then he could does a different trilogy later, on side stuff or prequels or later sequels and things like that. And that way he can finish a story and then start a new story versus just having the story linger on and on and on. Right. So I don't know what the Witcher kind of deal does, but it's
Witcher is I'm actually thinking if we should go into the Witcher next after you're done with Berserk, because Ah.
After I'm done with Berserk. Like, after you're done with the literal hundreds of issues of Berserk that we need to go through.
What do you mean? Like, come on, Berserk, guys. It's actually on the topic of Berserk, real quick. How far are you along?
Oh, like I say, I went until I read until the flashback is over.
Mm-hmm.
Like what was the big now I'm forgetting all of the things. My brain is so has
We
moved
need
it
you
on
to.
already.
We need you to
Yeah.
know it. We need this. We
We
need
need
you
this.
to.
We need. I got to the end of the Golden Arc, the Golden
Okay,
Age
so you
arc.
went through the
Yeah,
eclipse and all that
yeah, the
stuff.
eclipse. I got to the eclipse. Yes.
Did you
So I got.
actually like go through all the chapters, or?
Yeah. No, I read through the end of the Golden Age arc, and the whole thing is fascinating. It's first of all, the meta aspect of it is very fascinating to me. I mean, I think um, the writer is such a sad man. It's just such a sad story where the guy just like, I mean, I read his interviews, like every interview he did. He's just
Mhm.
like, oh, he like sleeps all day and he like wakes up and he like writes and he just draws all through the night. And then he goes back to sleep. He's just like, he describes his life as being a shut-in. And it's just really sad. And then he does this beautiful work and then dies. I feel like, oh God, what a horrible situation. But what I think is fascinating is the fact that he introduces Guts and Puck like right at the beginning. And Puck is an important character and very important to Guts. And then he decides, I'm going to write like a prequel and spend years of my fucking life, like 8 fucking years, to do this prequel that Puck is not in. And we'll get back to Puck like 8 years later. Like, you know, that's what I think is really fascinating is that he creates this dynamic, he creates the premise, and then he goes away from the premise for like 8 years. Right. So I'm trying to think like how long the Golden Arc saga was
it was like it was a couple of years because back in the day he wasn't really he didn't do a lot of hiatuses, which by the way I want to make this very clear to the audience. Kentaro Miura, who did Berserk, the thing you're seeing on screen now, he's so good at his job, he's so good at what he does, and he was making so much money for the company. They allowed him to go on these large breaks, these very long breaks where he could just fuck off and travel and do whatever the fuck. And yeah, so that's kind of crazy. It's also kind of crazy that as much as I've been a fan of his, I did not know that he was just a shut-in, just the depressed, sad guy. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting, like reading because he talks quite openly about his influences and things like that. Strangely, I think his work is much richer than what he talks about, and yet
Mhm.
he doesn't. He just kind of, you know, he doesn't get into it too much. Like, and they don't ask him. They don't ask him like, tell us about the sexual symbolism. Like, because you know, Berserk
Uh-oh.
is dripping with sex, like dripping with sex, like every page. I mean,
Jesus
literally
Christ.
and metaphorically, right?
Let me try to pull up the pictures. So Preston was reading it, and he's saying like it's all dicks and
Yeah,
vaginas.
it's dicks and vaginas. The whole thing is dicks and
I,
vaginas constantly.
I have to yell at him to stop ruining things that I like to read, but he's not wrong. He's not he's
Like
not wrong.
every page, like the whole thing is just dicks, vaginas.
I'm trying to find
Rape.
one from Berserk that's not going to fucking
No, you
demonetize
can.
the stream.
It's like every single like scene of our hero is him with a sword coming out of his crotch, like it coming up in the erect position, and
But
it's
that's
like
how you hold it, though, right?
your dick.
That's how you hold the sword. What do you
When
mean?
he doesn't slash, it's always him like holding it and being like, "Urgh." Like it's very clear The whole thing is dicks are
let me
swords
up.
and swords are dicks. Like it's
Hold
over.
on.
It's overwhelming.
He got
It's
to the snake
overwhelming.
baron part, and he goes, "This guy's face is a vagina." I'm like, "No, it's not." And then,
You bring it up, and you're like, "Yeah, it is."
yeah, upside down, like, give it a there. It is upside down a little bit. I mean,
No, right there. Like, first of all, his mouth is clearly a dick going into his mouth, and his mouth is the shape of a vagina, and then his like nose is like a clit. Like it's very like.
what?
Why would anyone like? Why? Like, of course it is, and it's covered with fucking juices. Like, how is that? How
No.
is that? How is that subtle? It's not like I'm like imagining something. It's right fucking there. Like it's not. Like you can see the labia. Like what would you do? Like
And the
what?
way he holds his sword, I mean, yeah, yeah.
Like it's every fucking scene. Every fucking scene is him holding his sword as its dick. But weirdly, in every interview, they don't ask him about that. They don't ask him about the sex, which is so central to the comic. I mean, would you say that sex is as central as violence to Berserk? Or do you think violence is more important than the sex?
That's a good question. Fuck.
Especially knowing Gus's backstory.
Yeah, which is very important. And you were saying that it was cut out of the Golden Age arc movies.
Oh yeah. No, the animes are horrible. Like the animes are useless.
I mean,
like what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? What do you like? It's like everything. Did we talk about this before on stream?
No.
Like they have the scene in the anime where he arrives at the castle and this big beefy bald guy comes out and he's like, "Who will fight me?" And then freaking Guts comes forward and they fight and Guts like totally kills this guy.
Right.
Of course, that scene is meaningless if you don't know that the man who raped like Guts when he was a child looked exactly like that dude. Like that's the whole fucking point. Like you can't like if you're eliminating the one thing, like that later scene doesn't make any fucking sense. That's the whole point, is that he's killing some dude that looks and he's reliving that in that moment. God damn.
Before this is done, ladies and gentlemen, he's gonna ruin it for you. I just want you to know that. He's gonna fucking ruin it for you.
But it's fascinating.
Before we get off the Berserk topic, someone had a question regarding Berserk. I wanted to bring this up. Carmine Preston, what parallels do you see in Berserk? I don't know.
Oh, and A Song of Ice and Fire?
Yeah.
I mean, George makes use of a lot of sex and violence parallels. They're all over the place. I mean, for instance, Brienne's fights are very sexualized. If you like reread her fight with Rorg, it is straight up a sex. Or her fight with Shagwell, it's straight up sex. I mean, it's people quivering as if they're orgasming, her stabbing them as if she's raping them. I mean, it's very clearly sexualized. And of course, the characters that she is killing are the ones that tried to rape her and things like this. So I mean, there's that. There's a lot of dicks are swords and swords are dicks. But Berserk, it's times 1,000. It's just Berserk is times 1,000. It's just every time. I mean, certainly George does that. Now I'm trying to think of other things that outside of the sex and violence, the similarities.
You have the love triangle kind of between Robert,
there's love triangles,
Rhaegar, and then you have Guts, Casca, and Griffith. By the way, Casca
Berserk has a lot more sexual tension and like
also true
than A Song of Ice and Fire. You can like feel all of the sexual tension between all of the characters. There's definitely some issues of like, tomboy women, and their role and things like that. I suppose you could read into like Guts's relationship with what's the tomboy woman that he's into,
Casca,
and
which
like,
means shell in Portuguese,
yeah,
and I think Spanish too.
And Jamie and Brienne, and like what it all means and things like that. But you know, there's a lot of statements being made there, but trying to think of any other. I haven't gotten far enough in Berserk to know like how deep into, say, existential philosophy or something that it gets. Well, like Ice and Fire, involves so much of it.
There's a lot of destiny in there and fate. Like I kind of don't want to spoil it for you as you're continuing on. I'm assuming you stopped a while ago because you've been so busy with work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I promised to get back, but it's like I get on these little things where I'm just like, what do I feel like doing? And so, I mean, recently, I've been focused on my book and the fanfic and things like that. So like,
speaking of which, the
yeah.
fanfic and your book, someone had a comment they wanted to bring up regarding your book. Holland22, thank you for the super chat, says the Harrow was fantastic. Thank you and the team.
Yeah, no, the Harrower, and I'll talk about it. I mean, obviously, I'll do a breakdown and talk about it more in detail. But the Harrower, it was as daunting as, say, like the Bran chapter. Like I knew when we went into the Bran chapter and the Harrower chapter that this needs to be good. Like it needs to be really good. You cannot settle for mediocrity on this. Like when Dampere chapters are just fantastic, and I mean, I think that the Forsaken chapter is perhaps my favorite chapter in all of A Song of Ice and Fire, or if not that, then the Drowned Man chapter, and they're both Aeron chapters. And it was very hard, and we spent a lot of time trying to get it right, and there's a lot of. I think if there's any fault to it, is that we tried to shove too much in. Like there's a lot going on in it, like thematically, that I hope works. Because there's a triple plot going on where Aeron is going into battle, but at the same time, metaphorically, he's descending into hell, because that is the progression of the Aeron story. When we go to the Drowned Man, we're talking about Jonah. Jonah and Jesus are paralleled in the Bible quite a bit, and then he's in the belly of the beast. In the Forsaken chapter, the belly of the beast is Jonah. Belly of the beast is mentioned as Jesus. Like when Jesus goes out in the desert, they talk about him being in the belly of the beast, which is the reference of linking Jesus and Jonah. And then at the end of the Forsaken chapter, he's strung up in a Jesus like character. So like the idea is what's next for him. Well, what happens after Jesus gets crucified? Jesus goes to hell. And so we needed to have
Jesus goes to hell.
Yeah, Jesus is in hell.
Right now?
No, he returns when he gets resurrected on Easter.
Bro, I don't know nothing about the Bible. I don't know nothing about. I have this guy who's a pastor, and every time I ask him like a Bible question, he'll answer it. But he because I'm sarcastic, he thinks I'm messing with him.
Okay, so Christians believe that Jesus was sinless.
Okay.
And he died on the cross, accused of something he didn't do, and in that by dying on the cross, he is dying for our sins. He's forgiving our sins. He came in there, even though he was sinless, he gets punished for the sins of everybody else, and then he goes to hell, and he experiences hell and the pain for everyone else, for all of our sins. He pays for us. While in hell, they call that period the harrowing of hell, because Jesus is going in and he's scraping hell and releasing souls and allowing people to be forgiven and go to heaven and things like this. And people before Jesus came, like people that, Adam and Eve and stuff like this, people, what do you do with these characters that never, had Jesus and anyone to forgive their sins? Well, he harrows hell, and he scrapes through hell, and liberates people, liberates souls. And so then when he returns on Easter, he's resurrected, he comes back from hell, and then Christians believe that he ascends to heaven. So so yes, that's essentially it.
I know nothing about any of this. I'm not a very religious guy, which is weird, because people say that, and then I say, "Oh, thank God. Oh God, please, God, please."
Well, I don't know how many people are very knowledgeable about this sort of things. I remember one comedian saying that religion is a lot like the sort of like user agreement when you get new software. You just kind of scroll to the bottom and say "I accept," like no one reads it. And they kind of say it's like the same thing with religion. Oh yeah, I'm a Catholic. You're like, really? Do you know what that entails? Yeah. Scroll to the bottom. I accept. But yes, Jesus went to hell. That's what he did in between Good Friday and Easter.
Poor Jesus. You would think of all people, he would not go there. Let me get through a couple of super chats. Kyle, father to cope, much like your boy Carmine. Sapowski will do anything for money. Yeah, Sapowski is an asshole who sold the rights to The Witcher to Netflix, knowing fully well that Netflix would not do it justice just because he wanted money. I can't blame that asshole, because I am just as greedy as he is. But at the same time, I have a bit more respect. I would have a bit more respect for my magnum opus. But at the same time, Sapowski doesn't think Witcher is his magnum opus when it is. So
yeah. But on the other hand, what writer doesn't like sell the rights and have their piece destroyed? And when it's not destroyed, it's usually by chance. Like some people say, like, okay, take something that where like people really like the adaptation. I would say Harry Potter, his Dark Materials are both like adaptations where everybody's pretty happy with the adaptations. But that's kind of luck, like it could have easily gone the other way. And then they're just like, they sold it to some company that didn't care, I don't know.
In regards to Harry Potter, we discussed this briefly on the exclusive on Patreon and YouTube memberships, which you guys should check out. And I'll discuss it here too. J.K. Rowling it seems like she got a way better deal than George or almost anybody else, because she has so much say in a lot of what happens in the franchise. So much say, it's almost unreal. I would love to see the inner details of what she's got going on with this.
It is weird that she was like involved in casting, like really detailed kind of stuff. George was definitely not involved in casting,
Though he did have a lot to say about the Shay actress casting. Have you ever seen those?
Yeah. I mean, certain castings he really liked and stuff like that. Like he was like he fucking loves the Shay actress. Like everybody knows that. But
he loves her a little too much. He loves her a little too much.
Yeah.
I won't go into detail for those of you who don't know. I'm not gonna open up that can of worms. It's a very cringy can of worms to open up. Let me just get this out of the way as well. Katie McGrath, Merlin would have been great. I agree. I actually did watch a bit of Merlin. I hope it's the same McGrath. I hope it's the same Merlin you're talking about. The show, right? Yes, I did watch a bit of Merlin and I really liked it, but eventually I didn't have cable anymore. So, did you ever see Merlin, the BBC show?
I never saw it. No.
I feel like you would like it, but it belongs in one of those categories. Remember in the 90s when we had Xena and Hercules, and it kind of belongs in that, like, the late 90s type of shows. G Maester G, A Song of Ice and Fire is for the 90s. Themes of nihilism and reminding a euphoric Cold War public about the horrors of war and tyranny, etc. We now live in this. We need no narrative reminder. Is he capable of the changing theme?
So it's this is a funny thing because I was thinking about so in the 60s and 70s, existentialism kind of like rises and makes its peak. And a lot of people say that the reason existentialism like came was that after World War II, it was such a horrible, jarring experience for humanity that they kind of gave up on religion and were searching for something else. And then the 80s and 90s and 2000s and 2010s happened, and that philosophy and those movements kind of disappeared, and they kind of said that like what happened to society is that we replaced philosophical thought with consumerism, and now everyone just kind of is focused on consumerism, and that's like, you know, taking the placement, like, you know, God is dead, then philosophy is dead, knowledge is dead, and now it's just consumption. So I don't know if A Song of Ice and Fire is, first of all, George R.R. Martin is certainly not a nihilist, and in fact, but what he's saying is that like out of the nihilism comes philosophical thought, which is what George is kind of saying, that you have all this horrible stuff happening, proving that there are no good gods and all of this, and then from this you like come up with you know, human moral codes, independent of religion. So I don't know if I think personally society needs that reminder more than ever, but the problem is that how do you get people out of the cult of consumerism and, I would say, narcissism. I think people with social media has gotten people so much into themselves and putting the image of themselves out there, or just getting into the world of consumption and products and whatever, that those two things have really destroyed us intellectually and morally, and that we need something to kind of bring us back to, you know, really thinking about what it means to be a human being and have a proper moral code. I think that George's message is needed more than ever. It's just that the villain is not so obviously war right now. It's all these other things. Like I say, I think narcissism and consumerism are huge enemies now. Then those aren't really tackled in A Song of Ice and Fire. You know, there's, I mean, maybe Cersei is a narcissistic, but like, you know,
Wasn't Fight Club one of the biggest films about existentialism in the 90s? I'm pretty sure it was still alive
absolutely.
in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It really focused on the consumerism. Like it really focused on the consumerism aspect of it destroying us, it filling the void and trying to get and what do you do when consumerism tries to fill the empty void inside you rather than philosophical thought.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, that was all, you know, it's like people talk about that as like, you know, the pre 9/11 kind of thing. Like what, because certainly couldn't make the movie. Like so many of the jokes like don't make sense post 9/11. You know,
I completely random, but man, as I get older, because I just by the way, audience, this is one of very few times you're ever going to hear me say my age. But as I turned 33 recently, a couple years ago,
the age of Jesus.
What?
Jesus supposedly died at 33.
Yeah, don't do that. Come on, like don't. Okay. Anyway, don't do that. You do this all the time where you fuck with me. Anyways,
it's like it's a religious thing. It's sorry.
Okay. Well, I was, as I turned
in
33,
in heaven we're all 33. It's okay. Yes, continue.
I find myself missing like the 90s so hard, and I do remember them. I was born in 91. I find myself missing it so fucking much. It just feels like even the year 2000. It was such a different like era.
It was a very hopeful era. It was a very hopeful era, and the economy was booming, and there was world peace, and everybody was democratizing, and everything seemed great. And the only complaint we had at the time was, oh, we have everything and I'm still unhappy. And so you get these movies like American Beauty and Fight Club
Mhm.
about the kind of like the ennui of what happens when you achieve everything that you achieve. And that's just not a post 9/11, like post Trump kind of world where it's just
Yeah.
crisis after crisis after crisis after crisis. And oh my God, we're going to die. Like,
It's probably because we're plugged in and tuned into everything.
yeah, I mean, I think, that was the thing, like what social media and what the internet did to us is with the spread of misinformation and just navel gazing, like, love of oneself is kind of a crazy thing that happened to the world. But we'll see what
Let me
happens next.
let me get one more super chat out here.
Mm.
Appreciate all the donos, by the way, everyone. Appreciate it greatly. Um, this one here is from Count Balerion of House. I can't see that. I scream for live scream.
Haha. I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. Yes.
I appreciate that, Count. Thank you very much. And from Josh Hoffman, your boy. Speaking of PJ's handle, what's the deal with the breast milk fetish in the Sam Gilly scene? My wife's breastfeeding right now. All I can picture is George doing men's breast.
Yeah, I mean, I think George is just trying to make the whole scene edgy and creepy and things like that. Like, it's weird. It's weird. Like that, yeah, he's gonna be having sex and then all of a sudden there's gonna be breast milk everywhere. Like it's just it's not quite how it's not. I mean, the thing is like it's not really how breast milk works. Like you don't, like
I had so many people message me. So
yeah. But
I
keep
do.
keep keep in mind that George R. R. Martin has no children, and he's been monogamous in relationships for a very long time,
Mhm.
and so I would doubt that he has ever had sex with a breastfeeding woman. And so he like wouldn't necessarily be in that situation. So like this is what it's just kind of weird, right? Like he's imagining something he has no experience with, you know. Like like Josh has much more experience because he's had sex with a woman that is breastfeeding, right? Like he understands that when you have sex with a woman who's breastfeeding, there's not milk fucking pouring and spurting everywhere. Like it's but like I say, George R. Martin's partners um weren't breastfeeding, so I don't know like how he writes from this experience. It's just supposed to be weird and creepy and odd
Yeah,
and
of
and
course.
and, and edgy. That's what George is going for.
Hmm. Daniel Basic, something. I also love Chipotle. Thank you,
I
Dan.
mean, we all love Chipotle, but
Yo,
remember that.
this you randomly
What's
every
that?
time I call you randomly on Facebook, I feel like you're always out to lunch on at
Oh, at
Chipotle.
Chipotle?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's one in my house in DC. The but if with those tariffs, I don't know if you're going to be getting your guac anymore. So
Preston, I never get guac at Chipotle. I want to make that clear.
oh, get too expensive.
No, I just don't get guac.
Okay, okay.
I get carnitas with some cheese and
You don't like
salsa.
that the aguacate. You don't like the aguacate.
I just don't get it. Anyways,
Como se dice aguacate
oh
in
my fucking
Portuguese?
god, don't do that.
Portuguese. Como se dice?
Don't do that. It's
I'm
fucking
gonna
sick.
look it up now, motherfucker. Because I
From
know you know it.
I know nothing. For cheese crubs, Danny will use Tyrion as a new Mantarus
Abacate. Ah, it's so close. Abacate.
something. Do you know anything about this?
Identity was Tyrion as the new Mentaris at Envoy. Um, so Mentaris is the city in Slaver's Bay that no one talks
Yeah,
about or
the
visits.
the Demon Road. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the Demon Road.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm trying to think. Let's see. she says, okay. They say, okay, they'll beat, because this idea is that once Dany goes on the march, will she use the demon road or will she use a ship, right?
Mm.
And so if she goes by land, she'll stop at Mentaris, and so maybe she's talking about an envoy to Mentaris to make. I don't know if there was another reference to Mentaris envoy. Two-headed girl out of Mentaris, I guess because of the mutations or something from
I don't want to
monster.
spoil your fanfic, but you have a similar idea for Tyrion where he's going to go.
I mean, it kind of. I mean, yeah, the what I've plotted for like Tyrion, I'm pretty excited about, but it's probably not something we're going to get to for years. But
Don't say that. You'll get to it. You'll get to it very quickly.
But it's just so in the future, because it's like it involves like because once Sam's glass candle starts getting to Slaver's Bay, and Tyrion is in Slaver's Bay, and all the different plot lines with Gilly and Jorah and all sorts of stuff. I've thought about, and it's really cool. I have some really cool ideas, but it's a long way in the future with the story.
No, of course. You told me a bit of what your idea for Tyrion is, and I got to admit, I can't see you wrapping this up in 2 fanfics either. I cannot. I cannot see this being wrapped up in 2 fanfics either. After Berserk, will you guys be discussing any other mangas with high realism and philosophical themes, like Baki? Preston's not ready for Baki. Don't ever look into what Baki is. Don't do that.
What? No.
Don't. Baki is fucking ridiculous, and Lozar here is out of his mind. He loves Baki because he loves the muscled guys. It's just fighting. It's ridiculous fighting is really what it is. I love Baki because I'm a ridiculous person, but
is it? I mean, is it ridiculous fighting like in the useless senses? What was it? What was the Iron Fist? The anime, the manga from that influenced Berserk. The what's the name of it? You know what I'm talking about?
I forgot actually.
Yeah.
One Preston, they how do I explain? What's an example of something ridiculous I can give it to? Oh my god, there's so many fucking things. I just can't think of one off the top of my head. One guy stops an earthquake by stomping on the floor, on the ground as hard as he can. The same guy just I just can't. It's so ridiculous. There's so many things to choose from. But I don't think Baki is going to be your next one. Your time is precious.
Fist of the North Star. I'm sorry.
Fist of the North Star.
Mm-hmm. That was the ridiculously violent. Yeah.
The love scenes in the books and the audiobooks are traumatizing. The audiobooks. Thank you, Victoria, for the super chat. And thank you to Lolzar for the super chat as well. The audiobook is traumatizing because it's Roy Dotrice. May he rest in peace. Though I do wonder who they'll be getting for the next.
But let's keep in mind that like Roy Dotrice, he's a man of the stage. And these guys, when you're in theater, you've been around all sorts of different crazy types. And so like Roy Dotrice was probably completely comfortable doing and acting all of these scenes. He's like an experienced actor, so like for him to like narrate some like weird sex scene probably would not bother Roy Dotrice at all. But the are they traumatized? What's funny is that people kind of like really focus on the sex scenes of Ice and Fire, and I do too. I mean, we all do. As more memorable and traumatizing than like the violence, that we like fixate on Cersei licking semen off of her hands and thinking about all the sticky princes, and like while like somebody getting their guts like slit open and having their entrails fall out is like nothing. I'm trying to think if any of the violence in Ice and Fire really sticks with me. I think like the Hedge Knight, when the brain falls out of his head, like kind of that's that violence.
Some brain matter. I can give you when
That stuck with me a bit. That one's like unusually violent, where you're like,
I can give you mine, but
yeah.
it's not really violence that's happening in the moment. It's violence being retold.
Mm.
It's the one, I don't know if it's in Clash or Storm, probably Clash, where Arya is sneaking around and she overhears the Mountains Men talking about what they did to the girl in the tavern.
Oh, for Chitwit's like laughing story about the mountain's rape of that girl at the
I won't go into
yeah.
detail because I don't want to get the stream demonetized, but that's he let's just say the Mountain pays for it, and then after a while he's like, you know what, wasn't that great? Let me get that money back,
Yeah,
and
let me get there, yeah, and bring me change. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those moments. And the stuff that goes through George's mind, I mean, it is what it is. Lozar, George R. R. Martin is a swinger. I
I
testimony.
mean,
You're my expert.
it could be. I mean, I don't know. Like he ran into some pretty liberal circles. It's possible. I've never heard of him, like, I don't know, writing about that, or like I've heard him like in interviews being like, oh, but you got to go to the cons. The cons were so great because you could meet the women, and
He
there's so
said
many
that.
women at the cons. And right. And of course, like, I mean, of course, I'm just thinking like at a fantasy sci-fi con, like your ratio is like 10 to 1. Like it's not a place to meet women. Like, come on. Like, what are you talking about? But he fucking loved them. I don't know. But
This
I
was
don't
back in the
know.
day before Game of Thrones became super big in the community, right? Or
Yeah,
before yeah. So what was he doing? What was he getting that he was super excited over?
That's the thing, is the cons were small back then.
Mm.
First of all, I don't know if you guys have you ever heard of Gen Con?
No.
Gen Con is a huge like comic book um, thing in the Midwest. It's enormous. It's
Mm.
enormous. And I went to Gen Con when I was like in 5th grade. Dungeons and Dragons, fantasy, comic
Right.
books, like the kind of thing. And I went to one when I was like it was in Milwaukee, and I was like in 5th grade. And I remember it was just like so small and dinky. Like it was just nothing, you know? I'm sure somebody also has like a random memory of going to like San Diego Comic-Con, like, in the early 90s or something, and it being like just nothing, like the cons were tiny. Now they're huge, like you go to a
Right.
con and it's like, it's like 150 people like wandering around like a very small space, but now who knows? They're
Yeah,
enormous.
I'm hesitant to go to cons. I used to play Pokemon cards when I was as a kid, and the smell in there was not that great. Robert Reevy, Preston, but your take on the whole who the Night King really is. I refuse to believe he's just a random first man. Way more sophisticated than just erase the world. It can't be like this in the book. Help me. Hmm.
I mean, it's not that the erase the world thing doesn't like kind of fit thematically with what a lot of George R. R. Martin has written. I mean, it kind of does. Like when you pay attention to season 8, as shit as season 8 is, like it does kind of all make sense. Like the Night King is trying to erase everything, essentially kill everything. And then Tyrion at the end says, nothing beats a good story. And that, and the way to live essentially is to have a good story. A good story defeats death. And so George is kind of saying that like his story is a great story, and his story is defeating death because it's such a great story. Like that's kind of the statement being made with season 8. And so it's, there is something there, something that I think is a little beyond what Dan and Dave would have said. But as to like, keep in mind the book, there's no Night King yet. I mean, there's the original Night King. So I mean, I don't know if there's going to be a Night King. I don't think we necessarily need a Night King in our story. I don't know, Carmine. What do you think? Do you think we need a Night King?
I mean, I At this point I don't even know if the Night King is George's original idea. I mean, it was technically
Yeah.
his original idea, but the new Night King.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I mean, contemporary Night King. I don't mean like the 13th Lord Commander.
Right. They would like they'd have to explain where he's been this entire time. Was he sealed away? Was like what happened there? Is it like he's stuck in a genie's lamp or something? Like where was he the entire time? And why has he been biding his time? Why did he choose now at the time when I don't know? Because the kingdoms have been in
All the things that were so explained in the show. Yeah, like why they chose now.
I mean, the show made it sound. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since I watched season 8. It's one of the very few seasons I have not seen multiple times. Um, the Children of the Forest explained to Bran that they created the White Walkers to kill people because people were at war with the Children of the Forest, but something went horribly wrong and they lost control of the White Walkers. But the original directive of kill all humans is still there.
Right. Yeah. That essentially they made a bomb and the bomb got out of their control. Right.
It's Skynet.
Yeah. Yeah. And but it's but even I mean, it's strange though when you actually step back and think about it, because it's like the Children of the Forest were like, okay, these humans suck. Let's try to defeat them. How about we try to erase all humanity and written records of humanity? Like that doesn't really make sense. Like the Children of the Forest just needed everyone killed. They didn't need like the written record of them all destroyed. Like they didn't need to, have to destroy all life. They just needed to like kill enough of them to send them back to the Stone Age or whatever, so the Children of the Forest could like dominate and win the war, right?
What are you gonna do? We'll see what George has cooking up. Hopefully, something like that comes out. But from Kyle,
yeah, it's odd. I mean, I had someone ask George, like, this woman sitting next to me asked George, like, are the children are the others just 100% evil, or is there something more to them? And he said, you're just gonna have to keep reading. I'm sorry, I can't answer that. What's funny is that like in the show, they're just evil. Like it was just, like he didn't want to say like, oh no, they're totally evil. He wanted to say like, well, I'm keeping it a mystery for now, but
right.
Well.
Kyle, father to whatever that is. Thank you for the super chat. So Sam basically killed the Bravo with the glass candle. Who is Sam's next victim in the fanfic? Harrow was amazing, by the way, and don't kill Arryn yet, please.
I find it very, very funny that so many people think Arryn's dead. Like in the comments, like people are like, "Yep, Arryn's totally dead. There's no way he can survive this." And it's like, well, there's been so many characters that have been through so much that have survived. I don't think thematically Arryn should be dead. He needs to be resurrected. If he's a Jesus standing, he needs to be resurrected at some point. But with Sam, the idea is that the next person that Sam is going to be visiting is a fool in Volantis, inside the inner sanctum city, among the families of one of the triarchy, who is probably connected to Oberyn Martell's ex-lover, mother of Lady Nym. Like the idea is that these are the characters that we're kind of bringing in, and we're going to be dealing with like Lord Sunglass and perhaps like perhaps the characters from Weiss, if they make it there, like the Fishwife and stuff like. Well, Fishwife's probably going to be killed, but maybe the other characters. But the idea is that like the missing characters that are in Volantis that we need to deal with are going to be dealt with. And so I felt that the best character to have access to these highborn people would be a fool, like somebody that's tattooed kind of the same way of Patchface, because Patchface is a Valentine fool. And so like another fool in Volantis, inside the circle city, inside the walls, and that there'll be some story in there. So that Sam will be part of is the idea. Yeah. Have I told you that part, Carmine?
No, you
That
haven't.
like
But
the next step. Yeah.
that's actually a really cool idea. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
So that's essentially where we're going with Sam.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So this is again, damn, sad I can't watch this live, but I'm so glad you dudes are back and look forward to the recording. You have been having issues on your side. I won't go into detail, but you're also uploading on Patreon as well. So for people who don't know, Preston can upload on Patreon. You should definitely check him out there. I don't know your Patreon by heart.
I think it's just Preston Jacobs.
Okay, because I know your original Twitter was something else, but you're no longer on that either. Maybe the sequel, Jon Snow Show, can be him finding evidence of the true origins of the White Walkers. Isn't there evidence of the lands of Always Winter being connected to other parts of the world? Is there? I don't recall this.
I think what he's referring to is Mance Rayder finding the ship on the frozen shore having red silk from a shy. I think that might be what he's referring to. And so this idea that, why, because a shy, like red silk from a shy all the way up on the frozen shore is pretty crazy. Like, what were they doing? Trying to get red silk to Bear Island or something. I mean, for Lyness Hightower, I don't know what they were doing, but is the timing even right on that? I think Mance probably like found it before Lyness was even. I'd have to check the timeline on that. Where that
Good topic for the next video.
Yeah.
In regards to the Jon Snow show, I really truly think that if HBO does decide to do it, they're probably gonna again take us to ET, because what else can he really do in Westeros? Westeros is building right now. It's time of peace.
I mean, it's only that the surrounding would get dull. If they kept him north of the wall, the surroundings would get dull. I do kind of think that there's enough for him to do up there. You can deal with the White Walkers. You can deal with the different wildling clans. You can deal with flashbacks to seeing Ygritte or something, Ygritte haunting him. You could, haunting him. But at the same time, you'd probably want some more colorful surroundings. So maybe have Jon Snow leave the north and go to other places.
The best way to explore new lands and keep to the political aspect of the series is for him to go to ET. It's basically ancient China, and deal with the political stuff there. You can throw in them having their own White Walker problem. The Five Forts were created for a reason. Many people in the fandom believe that has their like sand version of the White Walkers. Whatever. Something like. Have you heard of that before? That whole idea?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of this monomyth idea of the world of Ice and Fire, is that everybody has a little story that's kind of similar. It's like the idea of everybody having a flood story, and therefore like there must be some sort of truth to the flood story, but not there isn't. Like there was not a flood.
A lot of religions also have a virgin savior by virgin birth story too, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's always this obsession with like the purity of women not having sex. That's a really odd thing globally that we're kind of obsessed with. Like, oh my God, that woman's never had sex before. Oh my God, there must be power in that. Why? Like, why? Because no dick's gone inside her. She has to have magical powers. And then the minute you break that hymen, the magical powers are all fucking like, they all just dissipate. Like what? Like,
yeah. No, you're right.
It's so ridiculous.
Will from Texas says, "Can you please get AI Roy Dotrice to narrate your Sweet Robin's The Winds of Winter fan fiction, even if it's just for Patreon subscribers?"
Carmine has worked in trying to get AI Roy Dotrice going. He has done work on this.
First off, I have no idea what this man is talking about. You give me fucking trouble. I have
Mm.
no idea what this guy is talking about. That you can't technically. Could we do that? Yes. Would it be highly, very
What
disrespectful?
would be,
Yes.
yes, what would be easier is Carmine also knows several voice actors
True.
who would probably, for a fee, narrate in the style of Roy Dotrice. Right?
Yes, yes, actually, I do know a couple of voice actors who could do it. Again, it's always like time getting everyone together, getting everyone's
Yeah.
recording. Everyone has different microphones. Recently, I wanted to bring someone in. We probably won't do it this stream, unfortunately, but maybe next one if you're down. There's someone who's a huge fan of yours and has an amazing Stannis theory that he says he wants to throw at you. And I told him like, yeah, I would like for you to come on, but if you have a good mic, please have a good mic. I
Yeah,
need
okay.
people to have decent mics, otherwise, yeah. But as for the Roy Dotrice thing, I don't think we could do that without getting in trouble. I think that would be the huge. We're getting in trouble. Ross
That's
has
what, yeah.
your boy Ross has a question for you. Will we see our first bathroom scene point of view from one of the characters in the fanfic, Manderley epilogue?
Like what? Like I'm trying to think. Like in a like an actual like privy or I'm trying to think of like what would be like we did in the Arion 3 chapter. There is some bathroom stuff that we joke. Oh, and there's a bathroom scene in the Bravo chapter too, where Bravo goes to the Bravo goes to Dahan Ladratho goes to the bathroom and then like sneaks out the window. And where there's a description of like the chamber pots there. And then in the Arion 3 chapter, the guy's tricking everyone into thinking that he's sick, but he's just trying to slow them down because he's trying to get up to at the right time. He needs to get up there at a certain time to the rookery. So he's like delaying, and he's like, I need to go to the bathroom. So there's some toilets. There's some toilets here and there. How can I get more toilets in though? Do I need to have more?
It sounds like you got enough.
Right. We had Tywin as well. Tywin was in the toilet scene. Just gonna try to do some more. Cersei had Cersei, I guess it was not in a point of view, but she was in a bathroom all day in a Clash of Kings. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Ross. For modern again, Preston, I'm teaching at a Warhammer / tabletop con in Milwaukee in March. Any recommendations for Milwaukee?
Oh, so let's see. There's a Miller Brewery tour that you can do that I think is pretty fun. Trying to think anything else that's really good. I mean, I don't know Milwaukee that well because I lived in Milwaukee when I was a kid. So,
bro, you've been everywhere.
Yeah. So, it depends how much time you have. I think the Miller Brewery tour is fun and very interesting. There's a place called the Domes if you're into parks, where they have 3 indoor like botanical gardens called the Domes. If you like gardens and you can go to the Domes.
Honestly, I'm surprised everything you're telling them is not alcohol related, because isn't Wisconsin one of our most drunkest state?
Yeah, because I mean, the breweries like are there, so there's a lot of breweries. Miller beer is brewed in Milwaukee, and then a few others that you may know, like there's one called Spotted Cow that if you watch any Red Letter Media, they're always drinking Spotted Cow. But yeah, it's the reason the baseball team is called the Brewers, but it's the beer brewing. But they drink a lot of beer. But
that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Also for modern, I like Jon or Stannis as the new Night King. Ooh, Jon as the new Night King? Okay.
There's definitely some obvious parallels with Stannis being the Night King, right? Like that he's trying to make the Night Fort his base of operation. He's been sleeping with like a fire woman, who's corrupting him. This idea of sacrificing children is there. So I mean, there's a lot of parallels there already, that he's already kind of a metaphorical Night King. It's just whether, he would become the literal fucking Night King. But
I
he's
like
already,
that a lot, actually. Ooh, I
Yeah.
like that. Is that a theory? Is that Stannis is the Night King? Is that a theory?
Oh yeah, there's definitely some theories that Stannis will
Holy
become the Night
shit,
King,
that's
or
so
Stannis
good.
is
Wow.
Stannis is the Night King.
Huh.
At least on a metaphorical level, he's the Night King in
I
fire
fucking
form
love
instead of
that.
ice form. Yeah.
That's so. Oh, I love that. Jesus Christ, I didn't expect to like that as much from Ross. I didn't expect to like that as much. God damn. From Ross, the words of proof that children of the forest made the others.
You mean the ward on the cave? I'm trying to think if that's proof that they made the others. I mean, it's certainly keeping the others. I mean, it's keeping the whites out. Assuming that assuming that the whites that are trying to get into the cave are whites controlled by the others, then I mean, it just kind of proves that they're enemies, right? Do you think that's proof? Like, I mean, I think it's a fine idea that the children of the forest made the others is what they did in the show. It's probably what George had planned in the books. But I'm trying to think of like if you were to argue otherwise, that it's just that somehow the others want to kill the three-eyed crow for some reason. They want to kill Bloodraven for some reason. And the children of the forest are aligned with Bloodraven for some reason, and they have the ward there.
I can see evidence for both, like for and against. Like
Yeah.
I can see evidence for that. Like usually anything magical can fight off anything magical.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you that before the show like revealed that the children of the forest made the others, very few people, I don't know if anybody had had a theory that the children of the forest created the others. I just don't know if anybody had that. Like most
this
people
is before what season 4?
Yeah. No, before it was revealed, like they had the flashback with the Night King. Is that season 6, right?
I think that's either 5. Yeah, not 6. I think it's 6.
Yeah, season 6.
Huh.
So I want to say before season 6, the fandom was very focused on that this is prophecy and Jon needs to fulfill prophecy, and the children of the forest are like tools to fulfill prophecy. There was one group that was, and even my theories at the time were no, the others are an offshoot of humanity trying to survive, and the genetic bottlenecking and things like that. I didn't even say that like the children of the forest created the others. I think I said maybe the children of the forest created the conditions that caused the others to come about, but that's very different.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a group of kind of tinfoil theorizers called Heresy that used to be on the Westeros.org site, and they really focused on like Bran and stuff like that. And I don't even remember them. I mean, they were definitely in the idea that the children of the forest were evil and that Bloodraven was evil, but I don't know if they ever had the idea that they had created the others. I mean, it's quite a I mean, it all, I don't know, it makes sense, but it's funny how like nobody really saw it coming, at least not that I know of.
I'll try to find some of the earliest moments from it. From this guy whose name I know I will butcher. Thank you for the super chat. So is Bran the end of a finite loop? He will have to be killed by the previous, who is the one that succeeds changing the timeline, not the point of view. Until this happens, two Brandons exist at once.
So I'm theorizing, and I think that you don't have more than one physical Bran, but you can have infinite mental brands, because the idea is that like the mental brands don't take up physical space, and so consciousness doesn't take up physical space. I mean, in real life, I understand that in real life consciousness takes up physical space, but like in George R. R. Martin's world, the way you get beyond paradoxes is that consciousness doesn't take up physical space. So like if I go back in time, to kill my grandfather, I go back in time and I inhabit my grandfather's best friend. My grandfather's best friend kills my grandfather. I cease to exist, but now but nothing, there's no paradox, because the best friend killed my grandfather. I didn't do it. So there's no paradox because the consciousness doesn't take up space. So I think that there is an infinite number of various loops, and I think there's an infinite number of time traveling Bran consciousnesses going back, and that are trying to get one Bran to finally like run the game. And in a sense, it's not that much different than playing a video game, if you think about it, right? Like when you play a video game and Mario dies, Mario's consciousness is yours. You go back to the beginning with more knowledge, and now you're gonna take Mario forward and try to break the loop, right? You keep dying on that pit. You keep dying on that pit. You keep dying at that at that turtle. But every time you die, Mario's consciousness goes back and inhabits the original Mario. So in a sense, like Mario is getting an infinite compounding of his own consciousness, and then ends up, succeeding in the end and saving the princess. So I think it's kind of like that. That Bran is kind of a Mario, and that he's trying to get out of that pit.
On this topic, regardless of to the audience, regardless of whatever your opinion,
not just two Brans exist at once. One body of Bran exists at a time, but thousands of consciousnesses.
Well, regardless of whatever your opinion on the show,
time travel, of course, makes everybody's brain break.
Regardless of whatever your opinion on the show is on Rick and Morty, please, for the love of God, check out the Vat of Acid episode.
Oh, I've seen the Vat of Acid episode.
And I say this to the audience as well. Like, regardless of whatever your opinion on Rick and Morty is, please check out that whole episode. It is so freaking good.
My opinion on Rick and Morty is that like Justin Roiland is like the best aspect of it, and he can do no wrong. That's a total joke, guys.
To clarify, if previous dies, current Bran replaces. He wanted to clarify that.
If previous dies, current Bran replaces. I mean, the idea is that like if Bran dies, like it doesn't matter, because you're just taking that consciousness and sending it back in time, and he continues on. But yeah, I do think that the timeline is being rewritten in the same way that if you play a video game, when you sit there and win and save the princess at the end, you don't think about what happened to timeline 52 where you died. Like it just gets rewritten. Mm-hmm. You're not sitting there like, it's strange with with TV shows and plots. Like everyone's very obsessed with like the previous timelines, but just think of it as the timeline rewriting in the same way as a video game. You've completely forgotten about the previous iterations in those timelines because your fate has rewritten in a video game.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. Rather than worrying about like, oh, what happens in these previous timelines? Is there a multiverse? No. It's just rewriting. It's just rewriting.
Robert again. Preston, you said previously if a Jon Snow show happens, he can't take on the White Walkers. Do you believe they still exist in the North? Yeah, we just touched on this briefly. I'm pretty sure once Arya killed them, they're all gone. I'm pretty sure.
Right, or at least that batch, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, one could argue that there's some other batch that didn't die when the Night King died, or and all of his robots, when the Chintari robots all fell, when the droid army all fell. One could argue that there's
Let's be
group.
realistic here. They should probably stay away from the White Walker stuff. Realistically speaking, there is no, like, if they give us sand White Walkers or any other iteration of it, there is not going to be any good explanation for why that is a thing.
What if, Carmine? And here's the idea. Okay, what if? Have you seen Tremors?
Yes, I love Tremors.
Okay. So you know how in the first Tremors they're like fighting like worms, right?
Yes, and then they transform into.
And then they're like these little, I forgot what they call them, but they're completely different creatures in the second one. Mm-hmm. And then they're like different creatures in the third one. And then there's different creatures in the fourth one. And then you find out that it's like, this is like a big, very complicated life cycle.
Right.
Okay. Hear me out. Game of Thrones happens. We get introduced to the White Walkers. Then he travels to ET and he goes up to the Five Forts and he defeats these sand things, right? And then he goes to travels to Jade Sea. He lands in some place and he fights like a bunch of water creatures. And then he goes to Sotheros and he fights some whatever wood creatures, right?
Okay.
And then at the end, you find out that they're all the same creature in a life cycle where they transform.
So let me go back to this real quick.
Just like Tremors.
So they go from Graboid, which is the first Tremors, then to Shrieker, right, and then eventually the third film, the Ass Blasters.
The Ass Blasters, right.
Right. Yeah. So you're saying it's just, so the White Walkers are just base version, and then they...
Yeah. And
what's the final form?
It doesn't, whatever, wood, it doesn't matter. Like, you just pick something, sand, water, fire, it doesn't matter. Lava creatures,
fire, White Walkers, holy shit.
Lava creatures, they're all the same. This actually explains or maybe this explains the book. Actually, in the people in the Sorrows with the Stone Men, those are actually others, just in a different period of their life cycle.
What the fuck?
What? You're saying this is not a great idea.
I mean, fire White Walker, whatever.
I'm just saying that people will be surprised. People will be very
Magic
surprised.
The Gathering meta deck over here.
Yeah, that's right.
Josh says, a girl who hasn't had sex has the magic power of not knowing how bad a guy is at it.
That's pretty funny. That's true. That's true.
Oh shit. Josh with the one-liners. Modern.
Oh, did I tell you? Did I tell you that a few weeks back, a few months back, somebody pointed out that the Jon Snow magically knowing how to give oral sex isn't that magical. You just have to assume that no person north of the wall does oral sex at all, and that Jon may be horrible, but it's still oral sex. Oral sex is like pizza, right? There's good oral sex and bad oral sex, but it's still oral sex. And so it's she's just so amazed that it's oral sex, period, that she's just oh my God, Jon Snow's incredible, even though he's horrible at it. It's just that she doesn't know what good oral sex is. She's just she's just getting oral sex, which is whoa, so. And I was that's pretty good theory. That's pretty good theory on why Jon Snow is
theory. That might as well be fact. What are you?
That might as well be fact. You're right. That's
from Modern again. Preston, are you worried about Doge?
So Doge is really. I mean, obviously, Doge is really stupid because there's already a government agency that deals with government efficiency.
Isn't it called government? Yeah, GOA or
no, GAO.
Oh, gee.
And there's every branch of the executive has an office of inspector general, which also
Right.
is focused on it. So you don't need it, but obviously the focus of Doge is not that, right? The focus of Doge is to destroy government, not make it more efficient. And so
What?
the thing that they're thinking, that the idea that's been appearing in the news, is that the same thing that Elon did to Twitter is when Elon took over Twitter, he immediately ended telework.
What's that? Why does that sound familiar?
See, this is the man who's never worked a real day in his life. So most people, like, you either go into the office and you have an office or a cube and you do your work from a computer at the office.
Wait, remote work? Oh, fuck you!
Remote work.
I've never done remote work. Well, technically, this is
This is remote work, right?
Well,
That's
but
what I'm talking
before
about.
that, like, fuck out of here. Wait,
So when Elon took over Twitter, he ended remote work, and so he was trying to scale down and fire as many people as possible. So the first thing he said is, anybody that doesn't want to come into the office, like, I'm ending remote work. And so a certain number of people were like, fuck, like, I can't live without remote work. Like, there's many situations in life where you need fucking remote work. Whether it's just that you can't deal with the commute, you live in a different state, you can't afford housing in San Francisco, or disabilities, all sorts of reasons for remote work. Remote work is incredible, right? Telework is incredible. So he did that, and a certain number of people quit, and then he went in and started firing more people. And so this idea is that, like, oh, if we end remote work, if we end telework, a certain number of government employees will quit, and then we won't backfill them. That's like the idea.
Wasn't the other idea that Vivek wanted to fire everyone whose social ended with an odd number?
Yeah, he's fucking nuts. He's fucking nuts.
What the fuck?
Yeah, no, seriously.
That's so random. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he came up with all sorts of weird, crazy stuff, right? So, yeah, am I worried that Doge would try to downsize and, like, end my position or end telework? Yeah, absolutely. Now, it'll be difficult. I mean, it's weird because it's like, you can't just create an office. You can't just create a department. Like, the last department we created was the Department of Homeland Security, and that was after 9/11. Like, you don't just create departments. But whether the department exists or not is not the thing that's worrisome. The thing that's worrisome is whether or not they can somehow force OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, to dictate that there be no telework or something in the government. I mean, that would suck. Yeah, that would really suck, because telework is a very important part of almost everybody's life these days, and it makes things much more efficient. I mean, we're much more efficient now that we have telework. Oh my gosh, so much more efficient now that we have telework. But
government employees specifically, or everyone in general?
Yeah, I think everyone in general, but government employees specifically. Like, even if you can argue, like, that at home, you're not, like, first of all, like, when you go into the office, you have people stopping by your cube or office all the time, shooting the shit, and you waste so much time. And then you have the commute. So you're talking 2 hours a day. So, like, once you remove that time of somebody stopping by your cube and, like, the commute, like, even if, like, minute for minute, you're less efficient at home, like, making up for the commute and like, people wasting your time is just so much more efficient with telework. Oh my God. But yeah, it's worrisome.
Preston, I must say, I don't know if you've ever had this experience or the audience has, but whenever I've entered into a government building, my first thought upon entering was not, wow, this would be better if they had less employees working. I've never had that thought, and that's what they kind of want to do.
Yeah, one of the I mean, for instance, my office is only half staffed. It's very difficult to hire people. I mean, the private sector is, very competitive. They usually pay more. They pay more than government. The government is generally speaking, government's very underfunded. And I think people watch movies where the government has infinite funds and everybody's rolling in these Suburbans with sunglasses and suits, and the government can do anything, and they forget that, like, no, it's not really. They're kind of, the government's always scraping by. So, but these are these weird myths that they believe about, like, oh, we just need to fucking destroy the government. Just so bloated. We just need to destroy it, and everything would be better for some reason.
This is a common, before we move from this topic,
Yeah.
this is a common thing I hear often in the Midwest, from just back chatter, from just like just
Yeah.
random people, is, damn, fucking government, dude. We just need someone to go in there and just fuck shit up. Why?
Yeah, and that's the problem. I think it's a real problem that when people kind of like accept something. I got really pissed when, Channel 5 News, the two all gas no brakes guy.
Yeah, and Andrew Callahan.
Yeah, he did a bunch of videos about his little experiment of going and trying to get hiring a mule to take him across and sneak across the border, because he wanted to do a whole experience, right? I don't know if you remember that. And he gets caught by Border
Yes.
Patrol,
Mhm.
trying to cross. But he kept talking about the border crisis, and it's like, why are you saying that there's a border crisis? Because, by the way, where did it suddenly go? Now there's no border crisis. Like, it all of a sudden, like, he kept pushing it because that was some sort of media narrative that he'd heard. And it's like, you just kind of, some people just go along with a narrative without ever saying, like, well, wait a minute, is that really the truth of it? Like, is there really a border crisis?
Because a majority of Americans don't really vote or understand things based on facts. They vote and understand things based on vibes. I just feel like,
which is why a majority of Americans are amoral, like idiots. But yeah.
That is something I want you to say from when you're back on.
Yeah.
This question here from Zach Dane. Will you guys cover Dune Prophecy in the future? So, on this topic, I wanted to briefly touch on Dune Prophecy, which initially called Sisterhood. Good on them for changing it, because I wouldn't want that smoke either with all the bullshit happening lately. I did watch Dune Prophecy. Man, real quick, I gotta say, I don't understand what the fuck people are talking about when they say they were bored. I was not bored for a fucking second. I had a great time with it. I
think especially the second half of the first episode gets very exciting. I could see some people, like, I don't know, like, they turn it on and they're expecting something right from the get go. But it builds. You have to introduce the characters and things like this. But it gets pretty exciting halfway through.
On that topic, like, what the fuck happened to everyone's just like ability to sit down and watch something? Like, I'm bored, bitch. We're not even through the credits. Like, we're not even through the opening credits.
Yeah.
How the fuck can you say that? This was such a huge problem for House of the Dragon season 2. Despite your opinion on the latter half, which we all agree wasn't that great, the first half I thought was pretty good. But you had people saying, I'm bored, and I want to say it's a lot of the younger crowd who didn't really grow up watching Game of Thrones week to week. They just binged it later on. Like
I have my problems with season 2, but when I see things like season 2 could have been an email or something like that, or season 2 could have been a tweet, I'm like, what are you fucking talking about? Like, you're trying to tell me that, like, the pain of Jaehaerys dying and all of the stress it causes everyone at court, and it leading to the eruption of the king crying at the end of the episode, could have been fucking tweeted? Like, what are you fucking talking about? Like, no, like, it needed to stew and be there, and you had to go through the emotions of being with the characters to get to that great ending. No, yeah, it couldn't have been a tweet. Could have been, like, this is ridiculous. Like, no, Dune, I would not say it was boring. I think, I don't know, like, there's a lot of exposition. I think maybe in the
A
beginning.
lot of exposition, but it's Dune. You kind of need it.
It's true. It's Dune. Like Dune is always This is what fucking Dune is, right?
I mean, it is what it is. But no, I've actually been quite enjoying Dune. I liked the first episode quite a bit. I actually plan on rewatching it before I got into episode 2. I really like the Dune franchise. We need a Dune YouTuber friend because, like, I've said this before. I feel blessed. I have my Ice and Fire expert, which is you. I have my Wheel of Time expert, which is Amber. I have my comics guy, which is Mr. Ness. I have so many people who know all this stuff. I need a Dune guy or girl. Anybody know a Dune guy or girl? Send them my way.
People are all going to be like, you got to reach out to Quinn's ideas.
Quinn, I don't even think he does Dune anymore, does he? I have no idea.
Oh, he definitely does Dune. He definitely does Dune.
So
Dune's his main thing.
His main thing now. I don't blame him. Dune is great. Comic book 19. I'll reach out to her too.
Yeah, it's true. He's totally into it.
Denny B. Quentin should be revived by ice magic and be a freaky burned version of Cold Hands. Burned hands.
Burned hands. Yeah.
What the fuck? Okay.
But we need to have a magical character. What you'd need to have is like Marwyn immediately arrive and find Quentin's body.
Mm-hmm.
If assuming Quentin's dead and all these sorts of things.
Of course.
But I don't know if there's just time for that. Like, how would you get? Because he's already in the bed. The war begins a day after the body in the bed dies. So it's rot. It's beginning to rot. It's beginning to rot. Got to get Marwyn in there fast. Who would let him in either? I mean, Barristan's in the field. Marwyn shows up somehow gets in the city, and then he'd have to get to the pyramid and be like, "Excuse me, can I come in and do something magical?" We don't have any magical characters there that could pull it off.
That's fair.
Unfortunately, it's too bad.
Miriam
Mastor comes back from the dead.
Miriam Mastor. Addison here. How much changes if Bran just died?
Oh my god! Like, you just fucking kill Bran?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. The story could not. Every character is expendable except for Bran. Like, you could literally kill any character and have it go on. But Bran is the only one obviously, he's the only one that's dealing with the time travel, right? And he's the only one with the children of the forest and all of that. The only way you could go, I'm trying to think of like how you could repair the story if you just had Bran die. You'd have to pursue the same ideas with Arryn and Euron. Like, that's the only way I could see it moving on, right? Because they're roughly doing the same thing. They're opening their third eye with psychotropic drugs. They've got dreams and shit like that. You'd have to pursue you'd have to transfer all of that to Euron and Arryn. But they're on the other side of the world, so they're not near the others. I suppose you could do it. I think you could do it because if the story is heading towards Harrenhal, like the God's Eye at the end, like let's just try to have that be the end point of the story. You could have people hearing about the onslaught of the others as they come south, and Arryn is opening his third eye and discovers time travel and all sorts of things. You would have to have Arryn take over the Bran story. He's really the only one that could do it at this point.
You see that right there, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah. That's the gears turning in Preston's head. Like, you're giving him ideas for the fanfic.
To kill Bran? I'm not killing Bran.
No.
I mean, that would be fucking crazy.
People would be pissed, but they would read out of anger.
Yeah, like how are you doing this one? Yeah, like you killed John Tyrion, like in one, like you just killed John Tyrion, Arya, and Bran, and then you're just, and Danny, and you
Oh
just keep
shit,
going.
Danny? Oh
Yeah,
fuck.
yeah, 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 yeah. You just keep going. You just keep going with the story. Like that's it.
From Robert again, thank you for the super chat, and thank you to everyone who has given super chats thus far. Rob's Rebellion show, revealing why Ashara Dane died.
Mm. Yeah, it's a big mystery. What to do with Ashara Dane in general. Like, I don't know if anyone has good ideas, but this is why, if you look at my fanfic outline, I have another Hota chapter coming, and the idea is that he is going to like be with a group of people who are all storytelling, and that one of those people will have a story that involves Ashara Dane, and meanwhile, Aeron, if he gets resurrected, he can stop by Starfall, and then maybe hear more about the Ashara Dane story and like what happened with Ned. Um, I don't really have any good ideas on it.
So
So yeah,
no Ashara Dane is Septa Lemore.
I mean, we could. It's certainly still open. Um, or Ashara Dane somehow Quaithe. That's the other thing, is that like the next chapter of Dany is that she's in Karth, and so who do you have be Quaithe? Do you just go Shira Sea Star, something boring, or do you go?
I figured you'd like the Danny from the future
Oh
theory.
my god, yeah, it's
You
too many
also don't need.
Dannys. Too many Dannys.
That's true. You also don't
It's
need
like,
to answer that question. You keep it a
yeah,
mystery.
keep
Part
it a
of what
mystery.
part of what makes the mystery fun is keeping it the mystery.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Oftentimes,
true.
answering it is just
Right. I mean, I'd already fuck people up if you like gave, if you gave Quaithe violet eyes, like you start mentioning her violet eyes, then
mhm.
everyone will just fuck like. It still doesn't answer anything, because like the top two theories on who Quaithe is Shira Sea Star and Ashara Dane, both who are going to have violet eyes. So
Right.
like it doesn't. You could give Quaithe violet eyes, it doesn't change anything.
From Woot 7, Varys, I serve the realm. Also, Varys constantly destabilizes the realm. What did he mean by this?
I mean, Varys is a liar. I mean, he constantly lies. It's like he doesn't need to do anything for the realm but he might just think like the future of the realm, like I need to save it by destroying it, kind of idea. I mean, a lot of people have that idea, that I need to save it by destroying it. Um, I mean, in this show, they did this. I need to unite the North by like having the North kill itself. Like okay, that's somehow. So I think it's probably in that. But does Varys? Does he ever say "I serve the realm" in the books, or is that a show thing?
I
Oh,
don't remember.
well, he actually does. Okay, Varys does say "I serve the realm." He does say it once. So in Ned 15, Varys says, "I want you to serve the realm. Tell the queen that you will confess your vile treasons." And then he says, he says, "Why the realm, my good lord? Who do you truly serve?" And he says, "I serve the realm." And then um and that's about it. I mean, other people say they serve the realm as well. Like, for instance, Pycelle says that he serves the realm. Um, and I think Tyrion says, oh, actually, he says, Varys says it twice. He says, "Why are you so helpful, Varys? I serve the realm." Okay, so Varys says, "I serve the realm" twice. Pycelle says, "A Grand Maester swears to serve the realm." The Queen smiled. Gareth the Gross. "Do the Tyrells think I will just serve the realm up to them?" A little different. Serve. And then the chain you swear to serve, it's made of different metals because you serve the realm, and the realm has different sorts of people. Which is where I guess where John got his little idea. He steals it from Lewin.
I do like what you said though at the very beginning of this. You believe Varys?
Yeah, no, it's true.
Doesn't Stannis also have a whole thing in the second or third book where he tells Davos that Varys is rotten and that like all the problems they had with the Mad King started with Varys?
I think so. I think there's something in there. I'm trying to remember if it's Stannis that says that.
I'm pretty sure it's Stannis, but to be fair, Stannis hates everybody, so. But
Yeah,
I'm sure someone in the comments in the live stream, you guys, do you know what I'm talking about? I think it's either he's talking to Davos. I know that for a fact, and he said something about Varys and how Varys is rotten.
yeah. Here it is. He says that. He says, "I am king. Once do not enter into it. I have a duty to my daughter, to the realm, even to Robert. He loved me but little, I know, yet he was my brother. The Lannister woman gave him horns and made me a motley fool of him. Give him horns is this idea that he's getting cucked. She may have murdered him as well. She murdered Jon Arryn and Ned Stark. For such crimes, there must be justice, starting with Cersei and her abominations, but only starting. I mean to scour the court clean, as Robert should have done after the Trident. Sir Barristan once told me that the rot in King Aerys' reign began with Varys.
There it is.
That's the weird thing. The eunuch should have never have been pardoned, no more than the Kingslayer. At the least, Robert should have stripped the white cloak from Jaime and sent him to the wall, as Lord Stark urged. He listened to Jon Arryn instead. So what's weird is that it's not Stannis' opinion. It's Barristan's opinion. But Barristan goes and fucking fucks off with Varys and goes to... He teams up with him. Fucking Barristan the hypocrite. So fucking weird, right? And keep in mind, this line is written after like Barristan has gone to Dany.
Right.
So Barristan told me once that the rot begins with Varys. Barristan.
I'm down to do a larger podcast on this topic regarding Varys and if that's actually the case. But thank you for that super chat. Will from Texas says, "Can y'all cover Silo? It's a great prestige show and better Fallout type show than Amazon's Fallout."
Yeah, I heard good things about Silo. I feel like if I'm gonna watch a show that's not on the streaming services I have, which are I have Amazon, Disney, Netflix, and HBO. So I have four. Yeah. Silo's on Apple TV. I feel like if I'm gonna watch something that's not on that, I need to watch Severance because everybody's been saying a lot of good things about Severance. I think Phil the Issues guy said that it was the best show of the year in his opinion. The year it came
Really
out,
better than Shogun?
No, because Shogun didn't come. Severance season 1 didn't come out this year. I think he was saying it came out 3 years ago. So he was saying like that year, it was the best show he'd seen. So I should really try to watch Severance, I think. But so that might
I'm surprised you don't
queue.
have Apple Plus because Apple Plus really has some banger shows. It's one of those networks where like they put out good stuff after good stuff, but no one's really watching because it's like Apple Plus. There's Hulu, there's HBO, there's fucking Netflix, Disney Plus. I mean, there's so much crap now. Like, what are you gonna do? You know? But I think Apple Plus, with a lot of the banger shows they have, definitely earns the money. Like, it really earns that money. So
yeah.
Quaith is Weasel, silly.
That's true. It's true. I'm trying to think of like timeline. Well, wait a minute. Weasel and Quaithe are doing things simultaneously. That's the problem. Like, because we get an alignment at the beginning of Clash with the comet, so we know that like Dany's time in Karth and Arya's time in the Riverlands are simultaneous. So, had Weasel appeared in a different book, if had Weasel appeared in Storm, that would have been different. But Weasel's straight up in Clash, and so that Dany's in Karth at that time. So I mean, and Quaithe is there with Dany and Karth. So of all the people that cannot be, I
Of
mean,
all the people,
of all the people, I mean, Weasel's also like a toddler, but like of all the people that cannot be Quaithe, Weasel cannot be Quaithe. I mean, also Amory Lorch, not Quaithe. Who else?
We're doing a top 10 of who Quaithe is not.
Lami Greenhands is not Quaithe. Okay, these are things happening simultaneous. You know, Yoren, not Quaithe.
Well, don't mind me.
Yeah, okay.
In FF, will Mel burn FF?
Fanfic.
Oh, sorry. In fanfic, will Mel burn Jane glamored as Shireen?
I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do about that because again, like George has had his ideas, but he has his ideas, and then there's like what's logistically possible. And so, you know, I've been trying to think. I've been trying to riddle out what I think is logistically possible. I know that really with the Mel story, I think the first thing we're going to be focused on is who is fighting at the wall and what forts are being taken. I think that's an issue that needs to be figured out first. And then there's an issue of like what is going to go on with Davos and possibly, I think, and his story with Skagos, but then somebody needs to be at Eastwatch to watch those giants and mammoths and stuff, right? So if not Davos, either all that happens off screen, but there's so many good characters that are going to show up there. One of the things I'm kind of struggling with though is like with Davos's timeline, figuring out when he did his shit, what's a good reason for him to be at Eastwatch. Are the Kettleblack brothers going to show up at Eastwatch? Is there time? You know, can I get the Kettleblack brothers up there at the right time? Like, how long would it take for the Kettleblack brothers to get up there? And should they be part of the story? Been thinking a lot about that. You know, is Asha going to head to the wall? Is Theon going to head to the Dreadfort? Figuring out the movements of these characters and the timeline is logistically very difficult. I don't think George had it figured out when he had his outline, and then he just kind of wrote, and I don't think necessarily everything fits. This is why I think primarily why we have this problem of Stannis burns Shireen, yet Stannis is a fucking month away from Shireen. Like he can't burn Shireen when he's so fucking far from her. How is that going to happen? So I don't know. So got to figure all that out. But I hadn't thought about Mel burning Jane. It's a long way off. We got to have about Mel chapter dealing with the war. Poor Jane Poole.
Preston, I know that in the Dominican Republic, they do not observe daylight savings time. So instead of you being an hour ahead, you are 2 hours ahead. And I know you have work tomorrow.
I am. Yeah.
So is there any last things that you want to cover real quick before we wrap up the live stream?
No, unless you finished all your supers and
yes, of course, I did.
Nice.
Hopefully the situation over there gets figured out soon, so we can get you back on live stream. But if not, I mean, I'm completely and utterly down. Before we wrap it up, though, are we going to do a dedicated Dune thing, or are we going to wait until Dune is completely done?
If you'd like to do some Dune things, I mean, I'm watching Dune, so we can talk about Dune. I mean, it's got your boy from Raised by Wolves being the exact same character from Raised by Wolves.
I mean, I love him. I'm so glad.
He's precisely the same character from Raised by Wolves. It's amazing. It's amazing.
He's exactly the same character from Vikings. I remember him as
Oh, really?
yeah, I remember him as Ragnar Lothbrok from Vikings, and no, he's basically the same character there, just cool, suave character who same mannerisms. He's kind of become like George Clooney. He's just the same guy in every show in a different outfit. So
yeah.
but
What else is going on? I watched Deadpool and Wolverine. It finally came to Disney Plus. Watched it with the wifey.
how'd you like it?
It was fine.
This is...
It was not great. It was fine.
You didn't like Deadpool and Wolverine? You just thought it was like
it was fun. It was funny. I laughed at some stuff, but it's like there's only so many like rim job jokes that like the 100th rim job joke that you shove in there, like it can only get so many laughs. I'm trying to think like what I really liked about it. I mean, I thought that the opening was ridiculous. Like, I can't believe they did that. I think that was funny. I think I think some of the action sequences were really well done. Like, I think the concept of him taking on all of the Deadpools was dumb, but executed was a beautiful shot. Like the tracking shot of him like taking on all the Deadpools was like done really well. But very creative, and, I laughed at, Jennifer Garner and Wesley Snipes and everybody showing up. Like, that was nice. But it's essentially like people walking around a desert talking about rim jobs. I mean, for 2 hours, right?
I mean, yeah.
And by the way, correct me if I'm wrong. Did they change his girlfriend's profession? Wasn't she a sex worker? And then they just make her a stripper?
That's one of those things that could be interchangeable at will. Like, whatever, man. I mean,
there's a big difference between a stripper and a sex worker.
I know, but I know a couple of strippers who get some extra cash on the side doing other things.
Sure. I'm not saying there's not crossover.
Of course.
But it's yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she was a stripper the whole time. I thought she was a sex worker.
I don't remember. I like the first Deadpool, but it seems as the Deadpool movies went on, he started talking way more than he should have. It's like
there's almost too many jokes. I would say there's too many jokes. Like, had they cut the jokes back like 50%, they would have landed better. Like, when you can actually like hear them and listen to them and like let them process, rather than just like, imagine a stand-up comedian just going up there and just like at lightning speed, like delivering all his jokes. Like, there's not the right timing. I think that was the thing with it. It was just like they didn't land because they were trying to do them too fast, rather than having like the right. But I liked the whole like the reason that Logan is wearing the yellow suit and all of that. Hugh Jackman, did his job. He was great. So it was fine. It was fine. But it was nothing. There's nothing where I'm like, you have to go see the Deadpool Wolverine. I mean, come on.
I have to ask you before we wrap this up. Are we watching Skeleton Crew, the new Star Wars thing, the Goonies, Star Wars Goonies?
I mean, I guess. I guess. I'm just gonna funny like if people are gonna complain about like Disney is pretty much a fucking kids show, but I just want to know if like people are really gonna be like, now that it's so obviously a kids show, if people are still gonna do the whole same thing. Kathleen Kennedy melts down.
Hey, look, man. I will say one thing. I tweeted about this, and I'll say it here. If Project 2025 retcons the entire sequel trilogy, I think this one will be worth it.
Project 2025. Like,
If it retcons the sequel trilogy,
is that what is in there? The Heritage Foundation Project 2025.
yeah. I mean, I'm just saying if they put it in there that they retcon. Look,
Oh
let's
my
be fucking
God.
real here. If in Project 2025 they'd add a new clause in there that they retcon season 8 of Game of Thrones and they force HBO to redo it with George writing it, a lot of people will be very quiet right about now.
Yeah, that would see the whole thing about Project 2025 is to increase human misery, not decrease it. The minute you put in anything that's like people would like, that would bring pleasure to the world, that doesn't fit in Project 2025. Project 2025, the only reason, like, everything must own the libs, right? It's all about like misery and creating misery in others, right? Like, that's what it is. Like, let's cut people's health care. Will that cause misery? Yes. Ding. Let's ban abortion. Will that cause a misery? Ding. Libs owned. Like,
Realistically, how
erasing season 8 of Game of Thrones, like, everyone would be like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, that doesn't fit. Like, what would be Project 2020?
Redo season 8, erase it and redo it with George writing it. How could that cause more misery?
No, like they would, like, Project 2025 would let's redo season 8, but we recast Missandei and Grey Worm with white people. Like, that's what, for no reason, and remove like the sex scene, which is actually like one of the best parts of was it season 7 or season 8, the really intimate scene
I think 7.
Yeah, that was like one of the really great things about that season, was like this random, had nothing to do with the plot, like, sex scene between Grey Worm and Missandei. Like, they'd be like, Project 2025 is like, let's redo it, and then cast like they cast like the people from Ben Shapiro's like media company, like the ones that did like that Lady Ballers movie, but you pop them in the roles and take out all the minorities, claiming that the minorities are DEI hires, and then you shove in like either people from Ben Shapiro's like media company, or somebody that's accused of sexual assault. Like, it has to be like a white guy who's really bad at acting, who's also accused of sexual assault. Like, that would be more in line. Oh my God.
On that note, Preston, thank you for by the way, for those of you looking at this right now, this is real. He did do this. He did, when the Shay actress was cast, he did this. So yeah, it was around that time.
Oh, he put horny.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's real. That's real.
It's a different time. It's 2010.
It's a different complete time.
Different time. People were allowed to be horny in 2010. You can't be horny anymore.
Not anymore.
There used to be songs about it. I'm horny, 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 horny.
And on that note, Lysa's milk is delicious. Thank you so much for joining us, for joining me on the live stream. Hopefully we can do another one very soon. I'm down to play the Telltale game, because we never really went through that. So we should definitely do that. And thank you to everyone who showed up today. I greatly appreciate it. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And consider checking us out on socials. Preston is now on Blue Sky. Preston, what's your Blue Sky URL? Is it...
It's blue bsky.app.preston Jacobs. I've got it like Preston Jacobs.
Fuck.
I'm the first Preston Jacobs on there, so I got it.
Hey, did you see that someone stole George's name, his username?
Yeah. And he had to like post that's not him.
So hopefully he gets that figured out. Once again, guys,